Hi, Kate. I wanted to let you know that I thought you had a lot of really great information in your post this week, and you covered very thoroughly the confidentiality issues and informed consent issues that arise when working with children, vulnerable adults, groups, and families. You were very detailed in your explanation of that. I think that I found some of the very similar information when it came to the family systems, and when you do family counseling, how most counselors view kind of the whole family as the client and who they're treating, but that's not always how it's viewed, and that sometimes there needs to be very explicit discussion about who is the client, what are the rights of that person when dealing with the family unit. I also found the statement you made about informed consent with a family, and how if one member of that family doesn't give informed consent, the challenges that might arise in counseling that the family unit then. And so I thought that was important to note as well. You talked very detailed about, or in a lot of detail about the minors and children, and how, there's the rights of the child and the rights of the parents, and how we have to balance both of those as well. And then whether to report risk-taking behaviors to the parents, and so determining what constitutes as a risk-taking behavior that needs to be reported. And that kind of brought me to an article that I read by Ron Lur, Andrea Lur, and John Samara, and it talked about ethics in school counseling. And one of the things that it talked about was how counselors were often conflicted over issues pertaining to a child's rights and autonomy in counseling, essentially, in the school setting. And it talked about how school counselors worked in settings where there were many stakeholders, so there's lots of people involved. It said children and their right to receive counseling and guidance was one of the stakeholders, so the child was a stakeholder. Principals who were responsible for the well-being of the whole school clearly is a stakeholder as well. And then teachers who were genuinely concerned about children and their care, and who wanted to know about the emotional and psychological well-being of children. And then parents who were ultimately responsible for their children. And those are all the stakeholders involved in the school counseling realm. And I found that really interesting to think about, because being on the teacher end of it right now, I see the importance of knowing what's going on in my students' lives. And often, we'll ask the school counselor for some feedback, but they have to also share with the teachers the information that they feel comfortable sharing, or that the child has said, it's okay if you share that with my teachers. And so sometimes understanding kind of where to draw that line would be hard as a school counselor. So I thought there were some really good thought-provoking ideas in that statement there. And then lastly, I think it was really important that you talked about documenting. And I think, that's something that clearly we know we need to do, but just how important that is, especially with confidentiality and informed consent. So again, I appreciated your post, and I hope you have a great week.